Welcome back to the Rally Report podcast. We got a second timer on the pod, and he really is the man of the hour right now with his recent performances and the attention he's getting. He's also a fellow sponsor from Maspeth Squash, promoting the outdoor squash scene. So quick shout out there. But yeah, pumped that he's giving me some of his valuable time from USA. Welcome back, Timmy Brownell. How's it going?
Going well. Thanks, Sean, for having me back. I feel like a veteran now in the pod. I feel like the pod's been slowing down recently. We got to get the banter flowing again. I feel like you've gone a bit dormant last few months.
Thanks for calling me out from the beginning. Fully deserved on my end. I've been kind of off the scene, but I am back. I am also wanted to give a quick plug for that. I am writing for Squash Magazine, and because of that, I've been following Timmy's journey way more closely because I'm responsible for writing the Team USA's columns. So yeah, I just want to give them a quick plug too, but the pod is back and the banter is also back. But I want to just start off by asking you a quick overview of the whirlwind of the season so far and, how this summer has been for you. And I know now that you're finally back home from the Pan Ams, we call you Pan Am gold medalist on your resume. So, but what's going on?
Yeah. So obviously great to have you back. I mean, I feel like the squash world, they need you, I feel like not a lot of people have been putting their neck out there and asking people some tough questions. And it's just good to, I listened to the Kendra podcast yesterday, and it was just good to have you back. So I honestly didn't realize you were gone for so long. I was like, wow, it's been a few months. But yeah, good to have you back. And on the home front, we've had a lot of things been happening. It's been really busy squash wise, a lot of movement. And obviously the most recent thing was the Pan Am Games in Chile, which was earth shattering. It was a truly Olympic experience, if I were to say. All the teams there were trying to qualify for Paris 2024. Obviously, we weren't because squash isn't in it yet, but we still felt very, very legitimate, which was really nice. Teams were coming up to us being like, "Oh, you guys are playing tomorrow. We're going to come watch." And these are Olympians, so it felt really cool to not feel like an outsider. And in the D Hall, people were coming up to us saying hi. It was really cool because those are Olympic athletes, and people are like, "Oh, you guys are going to be in 2028. Oh, okay, sweet, nice." It just felt like we weren't like the weird kid on the block, which was actually really cool.
Glad to have that change with the Olympics news. But I mean, I guess this would be a good time to ask you. I know, I can't not talk about the Olympics with you. And I just want to get your take on the Olympics and how that news hit you and came to you. And now that the whole craziness of the Olympics has kind of calmed down in the squash world, and, what's your take on it and how are you feeling about it? Is it excitement overflowing still with where you are with your career as a professional squash player?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that you're it's been calming down, because definitely I think behind the scenes, it's not calmed down at all. Things are going crazy on the US squash front, right? This is just Kevin Clipstein says it's like drinking from a fire hose all the time now, because the landscape has completely shifted. But I have to say, as a player, I only found out maybe a few days before everyone else did. Which is amazing. Wow. They were able to keep it under wraps like that. So the way Kevin explained it, who's the CEO of US Squash, he said that a big reason why they were so successful is that LA wanted all the bids to be really private. Whereas in the past, we had all these public campaigns, getting their top players to make videos and all this stuff. And that's why there was also a really big letdown and outlash when the squash didn't get in. And LA just wanted to take everything behind closed doors and really just evaluate the sports, I think, from a more objective standpoint. And I think in the past we've seen, from an objective standpoint, squash was ticking all the boxes. And so I think that that's why it was so exciting to see that they gave every sport a fair shot. And I don't see how you could turn us down just comparing all the objective measures. Being played in all the countries, being equal between men and women, things like that, being engaging the youth. And so it's just freaking cool. But we got this email from Kevin, and I was like, I cannot believe this is really happening. And he was saying, oh, it's a few days before they're going to actually confirm it in this committee. So obviously, Spence and I are like, there's no way it really happens. Of course they're going to shut it down, but it actually went through. So I mean, come on, you probably thought it wasn't actually going to happen as well, right? Or no?
I thought it was bullshit too. Yeah, I thought there's no way.
no chance, right?
No chance.
2020 push. I remember the 2020 push and the 2016, and I was like, there's no way. After they made the Rami Shore video and the Nicole Davis, I'd give away all 27 of my world titles. Yeah, they're like, what would you do? And they both like, it shows Rami Shore saying anything. And I'm like, yeah, they have to accept us now. They say no to that. How do they say yes to the US squash? But they got it done. So, Kevin Clipstein he's got to wear the superhero cape for now. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, a good follow up question from on my end would be: Are you feeling a bit more pressure given that it's on home soil and just the magnitude of the news that it is? I mean, the decision was based on the U.S. and you representing Team USA as you are with the hoodie right there.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you? How are you feeling
I'd say
personally
it's just exciting. I think like from my personal standpoint, like because sometimes I kind of get a bit like Eagles vision here, like over the top. But as a player individually, it's not changing my focus at all. Because I think like just where I'm at in my career and in my level, there's still so much for me to improve and work on. And I'm just not that close to being a top player yet. Like I still have so many easy low hanging fruit things to improve on. That's my focus day in and day out. Me and Spencer and the other guys, like we're just in that improvement mindset. We're not like, oh, I'm a top player and I'm just getting ready for 4 or 5 years from now. That's so far away. We could be completely unrecognizable as players in that time frame. So I'd say like day to day, our focus hasn't changed at all. But like as a squash fan and as someone who cares about American squash, it's so positive. And it's so cool to see that like they really view squash as a sport that's growing quickly in the US because it is. And to be acknowledged like that. And it also it's going to give us a seat at a lot of much bigger tables. And obviously like the support that US squash is going to receive now, it's like, I think it's going to be a different magnitude. So we're talking orders of magnitude here. So it's just exciting. And I'm really curious to see what we do with it. Because that's the key is like, it's not like, oh, now squash is this amazing, huge sport. It's like now we're going to have a lot more ammunition and it's up to us to see what do we do with it. So like as a fan, I'm super excited. As a player, my mindset hasn't changed at all. Because I think it's different if you're like Mohamed El Shorbagy or something like that. It was like 32, 33. Maybe, maybe they weren't planning on playing at 37, 38 because not everybody's like Miguel. But those guys have a real decision to make. Whereas like people who are like 25, 26, they're mostly in growth mindset because like we're just not even in our squash prime yet.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is crazy to me because the most recent piece that I think just got published for Squash Magazine that I did was a deep dive on Team USA and the Olympic projections on how I think it would play out and how much age is going to be a factor in this all. Because I think all these players are right now, I think for publicity's sake, just saying I'm playing. I'm really excited to play in it, but there are some stark realities to it that some players are going to be 40, and like especially on the men's side, I said it is the age is pretty top heavy right now, so I'm super curious to see how it pans out. And also a lot of things that people I don't think are realizing is that each nation is probably going to get like 1 or 2 slots for the Olympics. So that would be interesting in how it's going to play out. But I mean, at the time being, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on what should be one of the greatest news in our sport. But I guess one thing I want to talk to you about that you just mentioned was the day-to-day improvements that you're looking to do. I mean, Timmy, we're currently ranked 40 in the world, also correct inside that top 40 mark, highest ranking of 39. What are some of the things? I don't want you to give away too much secrets to the enemies out there, but what are some things that you are working on this past summer, or some things that you'd like to add to your game that you can kind of share with the audience who are curious about your game and such?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Also, one more thing in the Olympics there. I was going to say, like, obviously we don't know what the format will be, but it sounds like it's going to be one draw, individuals, men, and then individuals, women. And I was talking to Bridget, our coach, and I was like, I wonder if, every country gets 1 player, 2 players. Like say if it's 64 draw, you're going to have some really obscure nations with a player that might not be, even in top 200 PSA or something. Is that a good thing at the Olympic level? And then she made a really great point, which is like in other sports, there's a standard that has to be met. So it's not like just because you're from a country doesn't mean you're going to get a spot. So which I thought was fascinating. Like, let's say you're from, I don't know, Russia, and you're a good squash player there. You're maybe the number 1 squash player there. But you're outside the top 200 on PSA, you might not be qualifying for the Olympics, which is fascinating if you have like these superpower countries like Russia, China, other countries like that who are like, we want athletes in the Olympics in every sport. I'm wondering how it's going to play out because it seems like in track and other sports like that, there's standards you have to meet in addition to being, qualifying for your country. So I think I'm wondering how it's going to play out on the PSA standard. Who will be the highest ranked, as in like highest number ranked player PSA wise to play in the Olympics? Like it will be 150 in the world? Or was it like everyone top 50?
I mean, these are all just great points because, I mean, the first thing that came into my mind is that, I mean, if we're going to do just straight best players, it should be, I mean, Egyptians should have like 12 to 15 slots in it. But realistically, that's not feasible. And then with how, I mean, I guess the closest comparison is with the British Junior Open. They only give certain slots to certain nations. And I know there's a system behind that. But are they going to replicate that system? And also another element, this is a bigger picture here on that. I mean, Russia and China put in so much value in the Olympics, and this could just completely change how they view the sport and how aggressively they're going to pursue it. So it would be interesting to see some great players from those two nations and see how that could shake up the squash world in the PSA sense, not even just the Olympics.
Exactly.
Super exciting times in terms of that.
Think about the funding that's going to be going into those nations, especially if squash continues in the Olympics past 28. Like, Bang He made a funny joke where he's like, man, going straight to China national coach, man.
They'll pay the big bucks. They'll pay the big bucks over there.
He's right. They're gonna need elite talent, elite coaching talent, and players that are switching nations. Because I think that's another hot topic we got to talk about. It's a very real thing.
Oh, for sure.
People are going to be switching to nations where they're going to be the top dog, and all the funding is going to come their way because it makes sense for a country. You want your player to be in the Olympics, be visible, win a medal. Like, that's such a big deal. You cannot do a bigger thing for your country. So there's no way around it. All these major countries that don't have players in the top 50 PSA, like if squash is in the Olympics going forward, they're going to have players in the top 50 PSA for sure. And that's crazy.
That's a great point. I mean, and there's a hypothetical. I mean, we see it with how the Shorbagy brothers are now representing England.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of these players, I don't know how attached they feel to their nations, and if they feel that they have an opportunity to represent another country, but be a Olympic gold medalist. I don't know about you, but if I get a good incentive for it, I'm switching nations. So this is such a great hypothetical of
where are you going? Where are you going, Fiji? Where are we going?
I don't know. Like there could be any name. It's just
totally.
So cool to see, and I'm curious to see how it will pan out in 2028. You never know. Like Timmy might be representing some other country. I mean, I highly doubt that, but we never know who's going to be representing which country. And I mean, there was such a big news with Mohamed El Shorbagy switching from Egypt to England. So really fascinating to see how. Did
you see Mohamed's post, by the way? It was either today or yesterday about Yusuf Solomon. So I think
yes,
I was reading that, and so he goes. He was in Arabic. You translate it. It goes.
I translated too. Yeah.
Obviously, I wasn't just banging out my Arabic there, but there's no the actual literal translation was like, oh, there's no sponsors on his shirt, and it's because like the interests are a bit off or something like that, right? But I think what he was saying was something more along the lines of like, great players aren't really appreciated sometimes in Egypt, which is, and I know that Yusuf Solomon had been based in Bristol for a bunch of years. Like I know he was rooming with Todd Harrity back in the day as well. So maybe there's some rumblings there. What if Yusuf Solomon were to jump ship as well? Like he's a top 12 player in the world, and you could have England with a completely new national team than what they had 2 years ago. That'd be insane.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I read that too, and I actually had that jotted down as something to talk about with you as a talking point about sponsorships. But I mean, I think the whole Mohamed El Shorbagy switching nations too. I think for people who really followed along his journey weren't that surprised because there was some voices of him being disgruntled about the lack of support that Egypt was giving him. I mean, he did collide with the Ramy Shore era and how Egypt pretty much put Ramy Shore as the helm of squash, and the lack of support, and players want to be wanted by countries. So this is super interesting to see.
Solomon is he's such a he doesn't speak out too much. He just kind of gets about his business. Super hard worker, fair player, right? He's not gonna he just really doesn't seem like the guy who's gonna lash out and complain about anything. So it's just fascinating for me that Shorbagy would be someone that go out there and defend him when it doesn't seem like he was under attack, but that clearly means there's something going on behind the scenes. Right, like unprompted.
I would love to have him on.
Interesting.
I also saw Marwan.
Maybe get him on the pod.
Yeah, Marwan reposted that. I don't know if that's their soft recruitment to Yusuf to go to the UK, but
they need him before December for World Teams. I think that's the key. They got about a month.
That's tough competition there.
They've already announced their squad, so obviously he would play, but. Good shout out. Maspeth should get on his shirt. If he's got nobody in his shirt, we should shout out Rob Gibraltar should get on there.
That would be a great idea. I just want to quickly talk to you about, if you're a follower of the tour, you'll know that Mohamed El Shorbagy seems to be quite the fan of you, and you've said kind words about you, and I just want to hear like how that relationship has been considering you've played him a couple times now, and it seems that he was saying that there's some behind the scenes advice he might have given you. And how's that been with you being on the tour?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's one of my favorite players, and there's no hiding that. And I honestly really hope I get to play him again, because when I played him at the U.S. Open and he knew it right away, like I was definitely hurting physically. The way And he's spoken out about this as well. In Paris, he spoke out about, some players really having a tough time with the scheduling and the matches, where he was talking about Diego Elias, I think in particular, who played past midnight in like a 3-2, and he had to play Mohamed the next day. And he's like, we're just going to kill each other. And I know he's going to show up and do it, but it's putting him at risk. And like the product's not going to be as good, XYZ. Because in tennis, you have like a rest day every day, right? Obviously, in squash, not possible just with the finances. They're not renting out venues for that long. But at US Open, when I got to play Mohamed, I played 3-2 with Steinmann and took a bunch of big knocks. And then I played a really long one with Shahjahan, like it was like 85 minutes as well, where I cramped. And it was like late at night, the whole thing. And I'm like, both my legs were not in great shape. And then I had to play Mohamed the next day, like no rest day. Whereas if I was in the other half of the draw, I would have had a rest day. And I just couldn't. I tried so hard, and I even said it on the court. I was like, "Man, I wish I'm trying to push for you, man." And he's like, "Come on, you can do it." Like he was encouraging me, like on the court. He's playing me and like kicking my butt. He's like, "No, come on, man, like get me up for this." Like he wanted me to get him up for it, and I was really trying. I just couldn't move my legs the right way, and it was honestly fascinating in that match in particular. If anyone has gone back and watched it, he actually picked me apart by playing slower, which is crazy.
Oh, that's so interesting.
He knew that I was hurting, and he played a slower length to the back of the court so that I had to kind of bring myself out of the back corners, where he's like, if you just try to blitz me with pace, it would actually help me. It would allow me to like, if he's blitzing off the back wall, like I can just kind of come out and walk around. Whereas him making me provide my own force was actually took a lot more out of my legs. And I could not push him the way I had in the past. Because in the past, we actually had some great rallies, but there it was like, I was just fighting so hard and I couldn't even get in there. And he was talking to me afterward a bit.
Wow.
Like I won't share everything, but he's super, super great guy. And he has no reason to be nice to people at my level, and he is. So behind the scenes, he's just been super nice to all the players that, have no business really even talking to him. And that doesn't go unnoticed. So I think he's just a stand-up guy, and there's a reason why he's one of the greatest to ever play the game.
I was going to ask, how much talking is there between players on court on the professional level?
I think that really depends on the player. And also it's kind of fascinating. Like for example, like with the Steinmann match, like he was like, if you say one more word, I'm going to like hit you or whatever. And I hadn't said a single word in the match yet. So there's things like that where some players kind of get fired up by things that are said on the court, and other players are just really in their own bubble. Like I would say an example of someone that's always in their own bubble is Victor, where he's just playing his squash. He's basically talking to himself in his head. He's never really engaging with other players unless something ridiculous has happened. Whereas there's a lot of other guys that might be talking, or there's a video review and they might talk to each other. I certainly lean towards like the trying to talk to the player, because I'm like, hey, I think that ball was down, or I think like I might make a joke about the ref or something like that. I'm just playing squash the way I would like to play. But I would say it's completely dependent on the player. But it would be hilarious if we did have mic'd up. Like I think that's a thing that PSA.
I would love to.
That's one of the most successful segments. NHL, NBA, NFL, the mic'd up. Every week they put a compilation of like the best mic'd up moments. That would go crazy on PSA.
From someone who's just a spectator, I see some audio ruffles of players talking to each other, but can never pick up on it. So it's always
sometimes they only have the mics in the back of the court. Or like Dasuki, I remember like in Sweden or somewhere, Dasuki came to the back corner just to talk to the mic, and he goes, "You have never seen squash before," like to the referee. I'm like, it'd be kind of great if he had like mic'd up. You could see a ref make a call, and the player's like facing the front wall, so the ref can't see it, and they say like, "Oh, you're dog shit" or something. Like it'd just be really funny. Like in other sports, like there's so much banter like that we actually hear, and in squash we don't get to consume that content.
And it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer that we can't hear that. Yeah,
but it can be done. It can for sure be done.
Timmy, I don't want to make you too uncomfortable here, but I'd be remiss not to mention your match with Dimitri Steinmann. And to really set the scene here, if you follow Timmy as closely as I do, you would know that this wasn't the first incident that had happened between the two of you. And this is actually the second time. So there has been prior history that's in the past. But if you could walk us through a little bit of behind the scenes there on both those matches, and how, if there was any build up to this, and honestly, your perspective. And I know you said it so professionally in the post-game interview. I was a little shocked how well you put it together. I was just like, I don't know if he scripted this before, but wow, this is very well put. You mentioned your point, but also was very kind to him. And honestly, I don't know how you kept the adrenaline in, because I would have been absolutely livid. And I think a lot of people share my sentiments, considering most of the Instagram questions that got submitted was, I don't know how he kept it together. That is unbelievable. And also, I want to hear your take on what you thought of his apology. If you thought it was genuine, or he did it for publicity's sake. But all those little nitpicky things, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Because that's something I heard a lot about as well. Was like his apology. Everyone like the support was really good for him, which I think is a great thing overall. But yeah, like how I kept it together, I definitely was not that together right before that. Like on the side court when I was talking to obviously like Bridget, my coaches, and like they're making sure I'm okay and everything, and I was definitely not happy because I was like, what the hell is he doing? You know, like I was gonna win the match, like I had broken him, and I was like 6-1 up or something, 7-1 up. And there was just no need for it. And it was before the fifth game. Like he knew he was cooked physically. And that's when he started saying some things to me when we hadn't been really talking to each other the whole match.
So there was no build up till the fifth game.
No, really. It was like the end of the fourth game. He said that thing where he was like, whatever he said, you know. And as we're coming back onto the fifth, there was also another weird moment where we're walking on the court and I just walked right in front of him. And I'm sure you could probably see it on the replay, but I'm opening the door and he just put both of his feet under my feet. You know when you kick like underneath someone's feet?
Yes.
And I was like,
it's a really annoying thing to do.
He's just like letting me know he's there. And I'm like, what's going on? And obviously in hindsight, now we know if he said like he had a complete head off, like he went in total instinctual mode where he's like, he's in fight or flight. And he's just trying to intimidate me, I think, you know, in the moment. But like, obviously you can't do that. So he's going to learn from it. But like, you know, obviously you guys saw what happened in the fifth game. But yeah, like he didn't, the public apology was nice. And like he owned it and he said like he's struggling a bit, which is great. You know, he didn't send me a message. I think it was because he sent me a nice message last year when it happened. And I think that was our last message on Instagram. Like we don't talk. So it's like, if you were to send another message, it'd be the same message 2 years in a row. So like, I think that's maybe why he held off on that one. But you know, I gotta respect the public apology coming out right away and saying, you know, my bad. And, you know, it's not like it's going to go unnoticed. Like he's probably going to have to eat a fine or maybe a suspension from PSA. So like justice is going to be served there. And like, he's young. It's like, he's going to have to learn. He's going to be playing a lot more big matches. He's still improving. Like what if he's a top 10 player soon? It's like, he's going to have to, you can't do that because then you're going to get into assault territory where you're getting banned all the time. They could take your racket away. So he's going to have to learn from it. But like, I would say in the moment, I was of course like super, super heated and I was really upset. And then I just it took me like 5 minutes and then I calmed down and the Squash TV guys were like, hey, you want to do your interview? And then I tried to take it from that route. Cause like we weren't going to accomplish anything if I just went out there and bashed him. But obviously like I was not I was not exactly happy with what was going on. But also on my end, it's like, I gotta be better there where like people know it's definitely a way under my skin. And I've talked about this a lot with Bang Hee where it's like, it's such an easy playbook for people to try to, you know, bully me essentially physically because I like to play squash. I like to move the ball around even if it's not always tidy. And so they know like if you're just trying to win the match, like you should block me out and try to like make me upset and I'll play worse. But like that's on me right now to get mentally tougher and not let people phase me on the court because for sure like up to this point I've definitely played worse when I think someone's not playing the game in a good spirit because it just gets into my skin for some reason. Like we chose to play squash. You're not making millions like in tennis. Like we play because we like it usually. Yeah. So like, why are you making this so unenjoyable? There's no way you're enjoying this. So like, I keep running into that issue.
Yeah. Has there been other players who have really resorted to that tactic when playing against you and you think have somewhat successfully gone?
Yeah. It's the playbook for sure. Or there's many playbooks, but I'd say if you're around my level, like let's say you're a top 20 guy, you don't really care. You can just try to beat me on quality. But if you're like, 100 to like 50 in the world, I'm probably going to be able to move you around a lot. And so if I'm playing well or feeling great, like, and I'm loose, it's just a great way to knock me out of my rhythm. So like, that's on me. I got to be better at dealing with changes in play. Like imagine like you're Mohamed, like people throw the kitchen sink at him every time he plays and he has to find a way to find a way out of it, every time. And he freaking does. Like we played Yusuf today. I got to rewatch it. I don't know if you saw that result, but
I did see the result. Yeah.
And like, that's like one of his least favorite players to play. And he hates the style and it's all herky jerky and he just finds a way and he doesn't complain about it and he gets on with it. So like, I'm trying to take a page out of his book there.
Yeah. I mean, we're giving a lot of kudos to Shorbagy today, but even I want to add on to the fact that huge interview he did about Asal right after he lost to him, where he came out and he said, everyone's complaining. I'm just trying to find a way to beat him. So
yeah, no, totally. And you got to respect that. And also I think maybe particularly with him, like he probably feels like, sorry, John White just walked in, legend. But he probably thinks like he probably sees a bit of himself in us all. Like, 'cause you remember when Shorbagy was younger and he used to wear the red Technofiber shirts and stuff. Everyone freaking hated him. He was the enemy. He was enemy number one, right? Rami was the golden boy. Everyone wanted to see Shorbagy lose because of his style, because of the way he played. He was just tough as nails. And I think he probably saw himself a bit in Mustafa, and he was just like, I don't care. I want to find a way to beat him. And that's why he's been so successful.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I want to ask you actually, because about honestly the first time you played Dimitri, because I think that's the one that probably didn't get publicized as much, and this one got a lot of publicity, obviously, in the U.S. Open. But can you walk us through a little bit about what happened on your first encounter with him? It was on the Challenger Tour, if I got that correct.
Yeah, it was on the Challenger Tour. Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse here with Dimitri. Like, he's taking a lot of punches here. But it was a Challenger Tour. It was in Cleveland, I believe. It was a 30K event, and I was playing him like on a glass court at Urban Squash Cleveland, and it was like a ripper of a match. It was a good match, but it was almost the same story arc where like he was up on me, and then he started to gas out, and right when he started to gas out was when he started to say things and do things that were just not cool, and clearly like there were a few times where like he made a move that was definitely intent to like not injury, but like to for sure like he tried to like stamp my foot or something and missed, and I could feel the force of his foot, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah. He's like a really strong guy. And luckily,
he's built like a truck.
He's like, I'm not going to say what he said, but he said a few things that gave me reason to play differently. Like I wouldn't play the ball at a certain area of the court because I didn't want to essentially get pancaked. And so I didn't play the ball there because he was gassed, and I just moved the ball around anyway. But like, I was for sure, I changed my style to not put myself in danger there. And what was said after the match was sufficient enough for me to get out of the building with my mom and just leave because we were not sure what was going to happen. So like that's enough there. Like I don't need to beat a dead horse, but he behaved in a way that we didn't feel safe in the building, so we left. But like that's what happened in that match, and super rare on the tour, but that's what happened.
I see.
John White's flipping me off over there.
There he is, the legend.
What are we transitioning to? John White, the legend. That's a pretty good cameo.
That's a great cameo. I guess I just want to talk to you about where you are with your ranking level right now. You're at top 40, and I'm actually, there's a couple things I'm curious about, but how you balance out tournaments right now. I feel like you're in a weird headspace of you're playing Challenger Tour, but you're also becoming a regular in platinum events. Like with your age, where you're at with your squad career, is it more of like, I'm playing all the tournaments I can, or are you starting to pick and choose? How do you strategize with points and all that? Because I'm sure that all plays a part in how you choose your events. And also just in terms of pressure, are you starting to feel the pressure coming at you when players are excited to play Timmy as a scalp, an opportunity to scalp, to move up the rankings, and also you're still in the phase of chasing still. So very complicated question there, but would love to just get your headspace on it.
No, totally. You're right. Like I'm in an in-between space where like I'm now confirmed for all the platinums, which is amazing. Like that was one of my goals maybe last year, which is just like, I want to play the platinums. And now I can play all the platinums, but I still am going to have to play smaller events because I think a player does this very well is Nathan Lake, where let's say he's in a stretch where he's playing the platinums and he just happens to be losing a bunch of first rounds or second rounds. You're not actually getting them that many matches and like getting in those situations you need to be in to stay sharp. So he might actually play like a 20K or 15K, 12K and try to get 4 matches or go deep, make the finals, make the semis. And it's really served him well. And he did that, I know, last year at Nash Cup, and he won the Nash Cup. He didn't play a platinum and won Nash Cup. And then I think this year he didn't play Qatar, and he went to the 30K in Virginia, and he made the finals. So like that's an example of, picking and choosing events to make sure you're getting matches and still improving versus like just, I don't want to be that guy that flies to tournaments and is like losing first round or winning first round then losing. Because you're just not going to be getting the right type of matches to improve. Because like the guys who are really getting a lot of matches in platinums are like top 16 guys. Right. Everyone else is really kind of like, you're happy to win a first round, and if you win 2, you're in God mode, And that's just the reality. So like with my current level, so like I would say for me right now, I'm going to have to be playing other tournaments, certainly. But again, we all have to toe the line now because there's a tournament cap coming on in January. Where if you play, so like before you could just spam events, that was a big problem. People would just spam events, try to win, move up to top 60. Whereas now, if you play more than 15, your divisor is going to keep going up every tournament you play. So your average is going to keep
There's
dropping.
a risk factor. Yeah. Okay.
Massively. So everyone's going to have to balance it out. And like, it won't be a problem for me because I haven't played too many events, but for sure, you're going to have to be choosy. You might only play like one or two events a month instead of like spamming 3 or 4. Like, and so I knew, like, for example, I knew this cap was going to come out in January. And so in September, October, I knew I was going to have the Pan Am Games in late October and November and not be able to play anything. So I just spammed like 4 or 5 events through September to beginning of October. And it was a lot, but I set myself up like where I'm going to have enough events and I'm also not going to be flirting with the cap. So that's definitely something to consider. But like in terms of my level where I'm at, like obviously, you know, massive shout out to Bengy. Like he's been so patient with us, me and Spence in particular, where our level is improving so quickly, but like the things we're working on are just quite basic. You know, it's like basic hitting, making sure we're efficient. It's just hitting all these main areas that people wouldn't think. You wouldn't think a top 40 player needs to hit these basic areas, but we are. Because like, and I think that's a great thing is that we don't really have that ego because the guy who's coaching us has been there, done that at a much higher level than we have. And he's willing to spend the time on the most mundane, simple things. And he's also very, very good at showing you where your deficiencies are with his racket. So he can like put the ball somewhere and be like, see, you don't have that. And you're like, you're right. I do not have that. So like we've been just working on like very simple things. And for sure, my level is much better than it was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. So I'm at for sure an all-time high. If we were chess ratings, like I'd be all-time high right now. But I still have so many basic areas to improve that I'm very excited. Like I know that I'm nowhere near tapping out. And I get the question a lot where people are like, why are you still motivated? Like what's going on? I'm like, guys, I've not achieved very much in the scheme of things, but like I'm so motivated because I can see where these holes are. And that's a really good feeling where it's a bad feeling if you're kind of stuck somewhere and you don't know where to improve. You don't know where your holes are. Whereas I can see the holes in my game. And so I'm excited to just keep working on them with Bengy. And that's where I'm kind of at with my level. Like I don't really care if I'm 40 in the world or 35 or 30 or 50. It's like there's so many big holes that the level speaks for itself and the ranking will just go. We'll go with it. But these are exciting times. Like we're all time high.
Fucking motivational here.
It's so sick.
Got me fired up.
And like, dude, we're playing the world teams in New Zealand coming up, and it's like I might be playing number 1 or 2 for the US. Like that's crazy. I'm gonna be playing these top players. And it's so like this is all I wanted 2 years ago was to be able to play these top guys and play in the platinum events. And now I'm getting what I wanted. So now the puck is in, you know, my half of the ice. I got to figure out how to deal with these guys, how to improve it. Just got to take that next step. So like I'm for sure not satisfied with where I am and like got to keep grinding.
Wow. That's you got me fired up. You got me fired up for sure about it. But
we need you. Get Taranga December 11th. We're coming. The boys are coming in hot.
Let's go. I one thing I wanted to address with you is sponsorships and you know the candid, more of the monotonous of how it is. You've been on the tour for you're 2, 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, this is our third season now.
Third season now. And if I know that a lot of the listeners are younger, and I'm sure there are a lot of aspiring professionals out there too. But what if you could give us a little insight on the day-to-day and how you go about sponsorships? Because everyone has a different approach on how to make a living out of this sport. And obviously it's in a good trajectory right now where the sport is, but how outside of just the training and all that, how do you manage the life outside of it?
So, at least for me, like I'm not someone that spends a ton of money, which is a big thing. Like most kids when they graduate college are going to realize right away that everything costs money. You know, you don't have your dining hall right away. You got to cook meals. You got to do all these things. And so that hit me like a ton of bricks like 2 years ago. I remember I was like calling my sister up. I'm like, yo, did I put this chicken at 350 in the oven or like what am I doing here? Like those are real conversations like where you know I just wasn't really sure how to life. And everyone runs into that at some point. But I would say as a squash player, as a professional squash player, it helps so much to have a base, have somewhere you can set yourself, have people looking out for you. It's just so much. It's so difficult to do everything on your own. And you're going to run into problems where like if you don't have anyone around to bounce ideas off of or ask for help, it's just too difficult and it's going to be too lonely a road for you. So I would say if you're an American, like you have it here at the National Center. Like this is the place to be. Even if you're not in like I'm not sure how they're going to restructure the funding and stuff because they're going to do that for the Olympics, where they're going to really prioritize the younger players, which I think is a good idea. So even if you're a big baller, like let's say you're like we had a male player who was like 15 in the world, but he's like 35 and he's going to retire in a year or two. They might fund someone who's like 20 and like, you know, cracking the top 100 and is like, you know, like our Zakaria basically. They might fund that kid to make sure he stays pro and continues down the path. I think that could be a good idea. And I think that's what they're going to lean towards, but I'm not sure how that structure is going right now. But I would say like as an American pro player aspiring, like you should get to Philadelphia, get to the National Center. You know, we have people that can structure your training, your physical training, your squash training. We've got Beng Hee, who's one of the best squash coaches in the world. They're going to sort everything out for you. Philadelphia is a much cheaper city than New York City or Boston or San Fran. So
I can attest to that for sure.
You're not paying like $5,000 a month in rent, you know? You can get a good Philly place for like, you know, $800 or $1,000 a month. And I'd say like that's in America, we're chilling. This is the greatest time in the history to be a professional squash player if you're American. So like I would say that's my first thought there. And then on the sponsorship front, like I'm not someone who's really like outgoing with like asking people for support or things like that. So if someone comes up to me and they wanted to support me, like say what happened with Rob and Maspeth Squash, and I'm a big fan of theirs, that's great. I'm super happy to represent people that I think love squash and have the right head on their shoulders. But I haven't been super proactive about like getting other commercial sponsors because we have a funding from US Squash that's enough to live for sure. And prize money from tournaments, definitely enough to live in Philadelphia. But like if you want to know who's a beast at getting sponsorships, you got to talk to old Spencer Lovejoy.
I did know. That was the first guy that got in my head right now.
His jersey is, and he's certainly someone like if you're a young player and you want to know, you know, ins and outs of like reaching out to companies, getting their thoughts, getting in there, getting your face, your name out there. Definitely shoot Spencer a message online. You can find his Instagram, and he'd be happy to help you out because I think he's a great model as a you know example of what to do as a young professional player. He's someone hasn't cracked the top 50 yet, and tons of companies want to sponsor him, right? So like imagine what's good.
I saw the recent clothing modeling he did.
Oh my god,
modeling is his second gig.
So all right, we got to chirp Lovejoy real quick here because we have a Movember. All right, shout out to Movember. We're raising money for Movember this month. Me, Spencer Lovejoy, and this other guy, Alex Strettel, who works at Greek from Greece, one of Lovejoy's sponsors. And Spencer has to do this model shoot for J-Press, and they freaking trimmed his stash for the shoot.
Oh,
and so we think he deserves a punishment. So if you're listening to the pod and you've got a good idea for a punishment, a worthy punishment for Spencer shaving his stash early, shoot it into Rally Report or shoot it into.
Shoot it in. We'll get it publicized.
Lovejoy has agreed to a punishment, and we just have not decided what it is yet. So if you got any ideas, fire it in. But that's treasonous, in my opinion.
That is unbelievable. Unacceptable on my end.
Unacceptable. Poor form. That's why he's not in the pod. He was invited to the pod, and we kicked him off because he shaved his mustache.
We like people of integrity. We like people of integrity here.
Exactly. The bar is the floor, and he's below the floor.
Timmy, I want to I know I did the quick fire segment with you in the past, and I guess I want to just do this thing I've been doing newly, which is the quick fire segment of building the perfect player. I'll do an in-depth version with you, but you can only use active players. And if you could give a reason why or a little backstory behind who you picked, that'd be fantastic. But to start it off, best forehand in the game.
Ooh, I would say everybody picks Mustafa because he's just can absolutely hammer the ball. But I'm going to be different, and I'm going to pick Mohamed El Shorbagy because I think even though his technique is not the greatest, like especially in the back corners, he's got to do a lot of improv. He just has the talent to adjust and like cane the ball, and like also his front right, that drop like where he cuts it, like that's just a scandal. So I'll take Shorbagy's forehand.
Shorbagy's forehand. How about backhand?
I'll give a shout out to Yusuf Ibrahim as well for second in the forehand.
The gunslinger.
He's gunslinger close second, but Shorbagy took him 3-2, so it's got to be Shorbagy, obviously.
That's true.
Backhand, I'll take. I think everyone says Sherbini as well, and like no disrespect to Sherbini, I think she's class. But like, it's just not the best backhand. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
Ooh, hot take here.
It's just not. I'm sorry. You know, like the snap, like there's no snap there. Like she's very deceptive and accurate. But like if you're talking about like Gawad's backhand or someone like that, or even like Omar Mossad, someone like pure and technical, like those backhands are just ridiculous. I'll take Gawad just because I think like that's just if you're on the left side of the court, like he's going to beat anyone in the world right now. So I'll take Kareem Abdul-Gawad.
His comeback trail right now is insanity.
Dude, he didn't play for a year. He didn't. Yeah. He had no heel. He did not have a heel. And he came back and he just like dusted everyone. And he goes to the finals of Worlds, but he was so tired he couldn't play. Like that's like the biggest tragedy is that the World Championship final he was completely dust and could not play.
That would have been such a good final. Yeah.
Like if he had the best day, I think it's 3-2, and he might even take it. That's my hot take there. Is I think he might have taken the Worlds.
And also, when's the last time Mustafa went down 3-0? I mean, I know he's coming back from a ban, but Mustafa's a different beast. I mean, take him down. I
don't know if you saw those highlights because like I watched the highlights of that match. I didn't watch the full match, and the ball looked cold, and Gawad's just like putting it away so ridiculously.
Every
like the ball's like at his chest, and he'll just like adjust and put it to like one floorboard running. Like it's ridiculous. And like you could just see like they have to put racket head speed to get the ball through there, and he just finds a way. It's so silly.
It's unbelievable. How about best hands?
Best touch hands. That's a tough one here. Like softest hands or like quickest hands? I'd say quickest hands. Like maybe right now could be Yusuf for just quickest hands. Like the ability to like someone pumps the ball at you and you react. He could have the quickest hands, but I don't think he has the softest hands. I think Gawad certainly has softer hands than him. I'll take Yusuf's hands just because I think it's more like who's got the quickness. I'll take Yusuf's hands. Like front court, craziness, like sheer power from no reaction time. I'll take
would
him.
You say touch is Gawad then? Soft touch?
It's probably Gawad. Yeah, the way he just softens the ball. Like obviously it would have been Rami, but like Rami's not active. It's probably got to be Gawad.
I was a bit of a sidetrack here, but would love to hear what Rami's thinking about this Olympics. Is he coming back? Who knows?
Yo, you give Rami 1 year, I bet you he chops every American player right now. Like, I think if he had a year to train, like he could easily chop. Like, because he'd probably have to get leaner and stronger.
Yeah.
But like, you give him a year, he's chopping everyone that's not in the top 30 players, for sure.
I mean, I don't know what is going through his mind about this whole Olympic news, but.
How old is he now? Is he like 36, 30, 35?
No, I don't think he's even that. I think he's like 33, 34.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, like,
he's not,
if he's 33 or 34, like, if he had 2 years, maybe he could even come back to like top 15.
I mean, he was, unbelievable. How about best volleyer in the game right now?
Best volleyer in the game. I'm going to say Ali Farag because I think Ali, the way he holds the tee across, like, you know that little block volley he does? Like where he's got that long backhand block, like he is able to pinch the ball when it's so tight there. Like it's not like he's playing so aggressively or anything like that, but just the way he's able to hold that middle position across the court. If you play cross, you try to hold him, he reads and he just traps you in the back of the court. So I would probably take Ali for like his reading and volleying, not just the shot he hits off the volley.
Good choice. Best trash talker in the game right now.
Trash talk. I was gonna say I think you should get more categories. Like, we need like flair. We need drip. We need
drip.
Yeah, like best drip game. Like best trash talk. That's a good one. I'm gonna say. Ooh. Like some of the best trash talk I've heard is probably from Lovejoy when we played. Like, because he knows how to display me. Like, I don't know what he'll say something silly like I'll chirp the ref or something like that. He's like, "Oh, you're not getting it anyway, you fat shit," or something like. But like, he'll just say things that are kind of funny in the moment, like because he also loves a bit of banter. But like, it's not pure trash talk; it's more like banter. He's more bantering.
Yeah.
I would say but I can't think of an immediate winner for trash talk. So I'm gonna say Speedlove.
Well, let's actually dig into the best drip in the game.
All right, best drip. Like, all right, on-court drip or off-court drip?
Let's do both. Right. Let's start with on-court.
On-court drip. That's actually tough because I suggested it as a category and I'm not seeing a clear winner right now. I feel like Paul lost some drip when he started going for like the yellow. He went for like the yellow shirts and it just put me off a bit. Like he's gone with the brown and yellow look and I like the old Superman jerseys, like the retro.
Timmy, I'm right there with you. I thought he always had it's a little the shirt's too tight on him. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, he got a bit more jacked and he went for the brown and yellow. It's just he's changed. He went for the Adidas sponsorship. Like you should be able to have the sickest, drip.
Corporate like, sellout is what it is.
Corporate sellout. Maybe, yeah, that's true. Maybe he's not picking his own outfits. That's possible. if he's very big time. So like if he's not picking it up, that's possible.
How about off court drip then?
Off court drip. I'm gonna say, wow, no one in the men's side standing out to me. So like that's probably speaks volumes about our drip game.
That's telling. Yeah.
I'll say I think I'll take Hania El Hamami. I feel like she's always like, even if she's wearing like something that's not like traditionally nice, it's like she's just always put together. It looks kind of cool. So I'll take Hania El Hamami.
Just strong trendy outfits.
Just good drip. Yeah, good drip. Yeah. Like sometimes she'll just wear a sponsor shirt, like, and it's just like, all right, nice drip.
Best movement in the game?
All right, best movement. I'll say quickest mover is definitely Momin or maybe Miguel, but Momin feels like really quick to the front right now. But best, like most efficient movers is got to be Ali. So I would say like Ali and Momin combined.
But
like also, so how this? If you had Ali and Momin mixed with like Macon invincibility mode, like when Macon just fears no man and like just flings himself into the back wall, because Ali and Momin do not have that mode. Like a lot of those guys do not. They are not willing to chuck themselves into the tin to get the ball, and like Macon is for sure willing. So I would mix Macon like power, fearlessness, goat mode, mixed with like Momin speed and Ali efficiency. That's got to be the best mover in the game.
Wow, that really crafted the best mover right there.
I mean, that's a scandal. Like, I'm sure maybe there's a better combo. If you got a better combo, hit us in the DMs. But I think that's probably as again.
It's pretty solid. All right, finally, best mental game.
It's got to be Mohamed El Shorbagy.
El Shorbagy
has to be because I feel like he's always just kind of in duress and he doesn't win in these big matches. Like I feel like he wins in a style that's kind of tough and like confrontational, and there's always tough, gross rallies. Both players are hurting, and it's just maybe there's some contact. Like it's never like the most graceful victories, in his huge matches, and so he has to deal with the rest and like the refs doing something or like the worst conditions. Like he's in Guna and there's like bugs flying at him and it's hot out and people are being annoying. Like I feel like in time and time again, his floor is just so high. And that's a good sign of a really mentally strong player, is that their floor is so close to their ceiling, like where his floor is just so good. And even that's I think one of the bigger takeaways of being a pro now in my third season is that these top guys do not get enough credit for playing freaking well when they feel terrible. Because like you go to these random places and the food's bad, or like you get food poisoning, you didn't sleep well, you something's off. It's not like playing in your backyard. And these guys put up like their 5 of 10 is just good enough to beat like a top 20 player. That's insane. The fact that they can play that level when they feel terrible is so underappreciated. And so often we see these highlights or we see matches where we're like, oh, this guy looked a bit off. Like a perfect example is Ali versus Paul at US Open final. And I cannot believe no one was talking about this. I also watched the match in person, so I don't know what they're saying in the comms, but afterward, no one was saying it, that Ali was like a 3 out of 10. Like Ali was completely sick or injured. I think he was sick, but like he was like spitting in the trash can every 5 seconds. And if you go watch the match back, he's like flatting every forehand. Whereas normally he'll like push the forehand a bit more to play accurately. Like he was in clearly like, I don't give a F mode for like the first 2 games. He's like, I'm just here to not default in the final 2 years in a row. Like he was not even playing. And then like once he got warm enough and was like, I'm a little bit in the match and Paul like hit a few errors, then he like started to try more. But like you could tell he was basically like gonna throw up or something. And he almost won.
Catch that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like no one was talking about it. But being there live, you could see right away. And actually, I think Joey was walking by or someone was walking by and they mentioned like, he looked awful early on. And I'm like, yeah, he's clearly sick or had the flu or something. But if you go back and watch the tape, he literally, every time the ball came off the back right wall, he would flat it. Like he would like hit like a top spin cross or something, which is like, if you have watched him play a ton of times, that's like when he's like, I don't really give a F. I'm just going to whack the ball. Yeah. Whereas like if he was playing like really trying to get up for the match and believed he could win, he clearly did not believe he could win for the first 2 games. And then when Paul let him into the match, he really did try to win. And in the 5th game, he could have won. And he got shafted a few times. But like he was like a 3 out of 10 and still almost beat Paul Cole in the finals of a major.
Yeah, his level is crazy. Now, I'm glad that you put that on the spotlight here, because that's something as viewers we don't we don't think about.
Yeah, you might not think about, like, it's just so impressive. Like all these players, like that are, say, my level, we show up to some event like a 20K, 30K, we feel terrible and we get chopped in like the second round and we're out. And no one will ever realize it because it wasn't on Squash TV or something like that. Whereas those guys, every move they make is so amplified and everyone's seeing all their moves, and you see them when they feel great, when they feel bad, and they just always find a way to be tough and play well and win matches when it's scrappy and ugly. And like that's just the most underrated thing about the top 5, top 10 players.
Yeah.
Because you can't be in the top 10 or top 5 if you have like a bunch of losses like that.
Yeah. Consistency there. Yeah. Timmy, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, always just fantastic conversation with you. And I'm thankful that you gave me your time here. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, folks. Appreciate it, Timmy.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Sean.